on the podcast video, people will see your head, and they measured it, and yeah, it was significantly bigger than most people in my family. So,
I feel like I need to sit back from the camera now, just in case there are head size comparisons going on.
I put him up against the wall and said, right, I need a sponsor for the podcast, and you've kindly said yes to this. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I had no choice. Not at all.
All right, my friend, let's do this. Well, hello and welcome to the Church Office Podcast. My name is Gavin Smith. It's a joy today to welcome you to our administration, admin and ops. We love the work of ministry behind the scenes. We love talking about it. We love working in it. And it's a privilege to serve our churches. And our special guest today is Gavin Courtney from Church Street. Mate, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for calling me special as well. I enjoy that.
Yeah. You are special guest, definitely. You've been a friend of the Church Office for a number of years. We've chatted and developed a bit of a friendship. It's a privilege to spend time with you, and enjoyed my timing in Nottingham a couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely. Really, really great to have you up. And I think as you and I have got to know one another over the various different times we've met, there's so much. I think there's just a common heart, isn't it? Of like, actually, we love church. I see that in you so deeply. Like, you pour so much effort and time into just supporting churches and trying to help them build systems and processes that work as well as possible, because we know that's where God's kingdom can absolutely grow. Really lovely to see you a few weeks ago.
And it's funny, isn't it, how God brings people together? Because I as soon as I met you, because you see the brilliant software, but then you meet you and you go, this guy loves the local church, loves the gospel, wants to just do everything he can to help support people in this kind of behind the scenes ministry. Mate, you make our lives as church administrators and church managers easier. It is easier because we have Church Street. Let me tell you the time and energy that is saved because we get to use your product. And I was at a conference last week speaking to a bunch of church managers, and everyone's like, Church Street, we love it. And you guys are doing a fantastic job. So let me start this podcast by saying a big thank you to you and the team and the numerous people behind with you and working with you to provide this product for churches. It's something else, mate. So
thank you. No, that's it. We always love hearing encouragement, and I'll absolutely be certain to pass along the praise to the rest of the team. The reality is that there's 25 or something like that people who work on this day in, day out, and pour in their heart and their energy into it, because they also support and love the local church. So it's always encouraging knowing that all of the hard work that goes into it is kind of seen, appreciated, and it is making a kingdom impact. So love that. It
makes a huge kingdom impact. Yeah, it does. And there's fruit all over the place. And I know for our church, we've been hugely blessed. So, well, it's exciting to have you on, mate, because we've been chatting for a while. And I've persuaded Gavin. I've put him up against the wall and said, right, I need a sponsor for the podcast. And you've kindly said yes to this. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I had no choice. Not at all. Not at all. No, I think, as I have seen everything that goes on with the church office, I genuinely think it's fantastic. I think the systems that underpin the churches and charities that are out there spreading the gospel and supporting kind of kingdom work they're beautiful. They're an expression of the church. Especially the bride of Christ, but we need them to have good processes and a really good thought behind it. And I think that is one of the things I really, really appreciate about the church office. Like, you're hosting so many great conversations on different topics. There's all the resources that you put together, and actually, it's just a way of us saying, we're operating in kind of overlapping fields, but you're doing something slightly different. But we love what you're doing. We see that, we recognize that, and we just want to support it a little bit. So being able to sponsor the podcast is a great way of being able to do that.
Mate, it's great. So thank you so much for being willing to do this, and we've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've thoroughly enjoyed being part of the podcast. I know our numbers and listeners have grown, and the more people we interact with, they're finding it useful and helpful. And what I realize is there's just so many people say to me, like, are you going to run out of people to interview? And I'm like, there is so much good work going on. Even if you talk to another church manager about what they're doing, it's fascinating because people are doing things slightly differently. They're doing things really well. There's a growing excellence in all kind of administration in churches, and there's a recognition that we need to do this well. And so to find people and to find different ministries and tools and products and things like that, it's a joy. And so we
Mm.
do hope this podcast is a blessing to you, and we do, we're absolutely grateful for Gavin's support and the Church Suite guys getting behind this and sponsoring the podcast. So we are absolutely thrilled, and hopefully we can get some more guests on. We can make the quality better. I mean, there's not much you can do with this. There's no amount of sponsorship that you can fit in. So we had a bit of fun with my kids the other day. They thought it was fun, Gav, to measure each other's heads. As they
Okay.
me, Dad, you've got a huge head. You know this. On the podcast video, people will see your head, and they measured it, and yeah, it was significantly bigger than most people in my family. So
I feel like I need to sit back from the camera now, just in case there are head size comparisons going on. People are
it
mapping
is
these things
funny.
out.
It is funny. So tell us a bit about Church Suite then. What else? You've always, I know you've always got new ideas. You're working on stuff constantly in the background. You've got a heart to make this better and better and better, and I absolutely know that. And every time something new comes out, I get excited. Fill us in a little bit on the sort of the background. What's happening, and what are you developing and enjoying at the minute?
Yeah, there's loads of really exciting things kind of in the pipeline, but also kind of concept ideas that we're beginning to talk about. And I think for us, one of the biggest challenges is how do we make sure that we don't just go after the new and shiny? How do we work out that balance of when we're running different projects, we kind of classify them under three different categories of like something that is maintenance. It's behind the scenes probably, and it's not going to that a customer is never going to notice the difference. There might be an upgrade project where actually there's existing functionality which we either need to change or tweak or just give it a facelift or whatever it might be. And then there's the new, which is kind of new features, something different, trying to respond to how we see churches working, and trying to find that balance between all of those is really difficult. And I think it's exactly the same in any area of church life. Like you could your maintenance kind of type projects in church life might be things along the lines of thinking, okay, well, what are our sermon series that we're doing, and how are we making sure that we're always drawing people back to the deep values of our church, the biblical basis on which we're founded. Your upgrade is like, let's do something. Let's revamp our midweek prayer meetings. Let's see if we can push some fresh life into it. And then new is like, oh, we're going to run a completely different course. We're going to run the prayer course. We're going to run the whatever course it might be. And if you find yourself only doing one of those, then perhaps you need to kind of look at how can we adapt and weave some different kind of energy into that overall thing. So for us, like if we only focused on new, which is definitely like an inclination I could be dragged towards. Then actually you end up overwhelming people, because for some people they just want the same thing, don't they? They bought into something at the point in time that they bought in, and they're like, please don't ever change them. So one of the things that we're putting a lot of focus into at the moment is that idea of, okay, when a new person comes on board on your church staff, change is unavoidable. Like it's just a natural part of life. But how is it that we could better support onboarding new users, both like just clarifying things within the interface, but also we're building out and it should launch, I think probably in the next couple of weeks, a whole new kind of training section for a user, so that rather than needing to go out to our support site and find videos, actually you can go into your own personal training section and say, I'm working in the address book module, and then boom, right there's 15 different training videos just taking you through all the different parts of functionality within there. And so you can track your progress over time. It's going to give you a little progress bar of how far through are you. But then also, if it's not like a line manager, if you've got a new starter coming on board, as part of that onboarding process, the line manager can see that progress that each different user is making as they make their way through the training videos. So you can kind of encourage people, right, this week, just take half an hour to watch these videos or whatever it might be. Or if someone's like, oh, I just don't know how to do it, like, oh, well, actually, it looks like you haven't been watching the videos that are provided. Make some time there and just trying to work out how do we play our part so that the idea of a new person coming onto the church staff team, actually we're really supporting that as well as we possibly can. Because I mean, even this last week, I saw an email come through of someone who said, oh, I've just joined the team and the handover wasn't great, and I feel like I'm out of my depth in Church Suite. There's all these things set up and I don't really know how they interact. It's like, I think that what we're doing with that training section is going to hopefully play a real part in smoothing some of those bits. So yeah, that's one area that's
I think that sounds exciting, doesn't it? Yeah, I think it's great because you guys have done lots of like support and like one-off days, haven't you, where you can go and attend a training session with a bunch of other people, and those have been great. We set our whole team up on one of those once when we first got it, and it was great, and it was a great kickstart. But to have the time to give people a day to go and do it, it's getting more and more challenging, isn't it, for churches? So a 20-minute, 30-minute video that they can access through the site on a specific area of the address book or the planning part of planning a service, that sounds great, mate.
Yeah, and I think those the regional training days that we have run historically, we've put those on pause, just because certainly post COVID, exactly like you say, lots and lots of people, even if they are working full time or maybe they're part time, lots of people have kind of adapted the way that they work around, I need to do the school drop off and pick up. I'll still work my full hours, but I'm going to work slightly earlier, or I'm going to work slightly later. And the idea of trying to find full days for people to be able to come along to a training session. We've basically made the intentional decision of, right, this year in particular, there's no regional training days. We're pouring all of the effort that we were putting into those into building out more and more online training resources so that you can access them on demand exactly when you need them, and see if actually that is a better fit for the kind of the need that is there. So that's an exciting and fun thing to be.
It's great, exploring. Isn't it? And I think these things in a busy work environment, Gavin, what we find is that we probably aren't using Church Suite to its full potential as you guys have designed, and yet at the same time the challenge of, right, we don't have the time to look into all these things, continually get the training, to use all the different functionality. And I think I think it's a great idea for the training platform of being able to put snippets of videos in that people can access and go, right, a little bit of training on this, a little bit more, and the fact that you're going to create some sort of tracking process is great, because you don't do it every week, do you? So you forget where you're at. So actually to be able to look and see, okay, I've done 4 or 5 bits of training on this module, but actually I've done nothing that's related to online giving. I need to upgrade my skills in that area and have a look at that. So I think that's good. It opens up a big conversation, doesn't it, about training for churches. And we've chatted about this before, haven't we, that sending people for a day is a long gone now, isn't it? Because people are part-time, they are flexible in their hours. So being able to access something online is really useful, really helpful. Are you finding those same kind of conversations with churches?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it feels as though those kind of conversations perhaps have accelerated, or we're hearing a few more of them more recently. And I think the pre-COVID, the idea of producing videos or whatever it is to kind of help train people felt like a really big cost and a really big ask. Whereas everyone's kind of got used to the idea of, someone might record something on a slightly shaky mobile phone or what have you. And and our perception of what quality we expect from video, I think, has changed. And so I think people are more open to to kind of homemade video and those type of training things than they were before. I think there's changes in like availability. How many nights a week is it fair to expect a church member to come out to, and how many times a year, and I think there's lots and lots of, everyone's got different opinions on it, don't they? Like, I mean, what would you say a kind of typical week for a church member at your church looks like, in terms of they're going to go on a Sunday? Is there their midweek courses or prayer meetings, or how does their ministry training fit into what does that all look like for you?
It's complicated. I think we've had to change a lot over the years. I mean, we used to have sort of weekly home groups that people went to, and then we had we've got a kind of parent-led teens ministry, so parents would be out with their teens on a Friday, so that was 2 nights. Prayer meeting would be on a Monday. We do some optional Bible studies that people can sign up to for like a 5-week block or something. So you could potentially be, 3 nights at least minimum out a week at a church activity of some kind, and then to fit something else into it, like a kind of get together of all the teachers for children's ministry is an add-on, or to try and pull together kind of home group leaders for a day of training, and is another add-on. And so these are hard things, and you're realizing actually how many of us are still interacting with unbelievers as well. Do you know what I mean? Because we're all so into what we're doing at the church. And I think we've tried to work hard, so most of our groups are kind of every other week now, midweek, and there's a huge flexibility of when they run through, and I think that frees up a lot. And if people have got a real heart to pray and want to pray for the church and want to go along to prayer meeting, then come along to that. Some will come to the Bible study. So it is a little bit more pick and mix probably than it has been previously. But yeah, when people do come, they do engage and they are committed. So yeah, it's just trying to find those right balances, isn't it? But we wouldn't have 2 services on a Sunday. We would just have one in the morning.
Okay.
And so we've got a building that can accommodate everyone. So some people are doing multiple services on a Sunday as well. So I don't know what it's like for your church.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance. We've got we have 3 services on a Sunday, although they're essentially the same, broadly speaking, the same service, same talk at each of them. So it's kind of for different people groups in some ways. Our small groups run 3 times a month. So we have a week which is called Gap Week. So once a month, all small groups are asked, please don't meet on this week, because then that gives that kind of that 1 week a month is the thing, or is the time when ministry training can happen, because it's like you're not committed to your small group that week, so you could be committed to you're part of the refreshments team. There's going to be a training or something like that. And then there are various courses that run. I think most of our courses tend to run in person. There are some. So my wife runs a theology course, which they meet in person maybe twice in a term, but then there are online videos that they're watching between those points. So it's almost like you consume the content as and when you can, but then there's these fixed points when you come together to talk about things. But then there's, with any church, there's all those different things that's like, if you're going to be part of the kids ministry, then you need to do some kind of safeguarding training. And so, but almost like waiting to do safeguarding training once a year or twice a year, you want to get some of that stuff straight into people's hands, don't you? And it's those things, along with perhaps other things like some basic teaching on the values of the church. This is our approach to ministry. This is how we do prayer ministry, or this is how we approach reading the Bible and understanding it. Some of those things, you want those resources to be immediately available when someone starts attending as part of their journey of becoming a member, don't you? So it's kind of like, how do we navigate this world of I want it right now, but also you have to wait for it, and it's a really interesting dynamic, isn't it?
It really is. And I think what you're saying about the training platform, if there was a possibility of uploading your own videos into some. So one of the things that we identified straight away was when a new member comes and they've signed up to Church Suite, they start getting the communication, they've got a desire to serve in kids ministry. And so there's this huge gap then of when they can do it. So they're waiting for the safeguarding training to come round.
Mm.
They're waiting for the children's ministry next meeting to happen. And so we moved that online to a site called Moodle. And I
Mm.
guess it's like a kind of educational site. And we say to people, right, there's a gap between when you can get a DBS and when you can actually get on the rota. In that gap, we want you to jump onto this. We'll give you a username. And again, a similar kind of process of what you're saying. We go on and we expect them to go and do the safeguarding training, go and hear about how to download the curriculum, how to teach a curriculum. We've created videos for all those different things. And like you say, you can track them behind the scenes of what people have
Mm.
done. And there's some great governance things that happen. So he'll email you when somebody's completed like there's a little short test for safeguarding. Have you
Yeah.
engaged with the content? Do you understand what's expected from you as a worker? And then it'll email the office. But then what we do then is we create a tag on Church Suite to say that they've completed the training, they've got a DBS in place, the
Yeah.
date happens. But we're using the two systems,
Mm.
and I think if there was a possibility of combining that, I mean,
Mm.
we probably pay something like £350 a year for Moodle to have
Yeah.
this site. But then we're still having to do the transfer of information across to Church Street because that provides a real good governance structure for us, so we can quickly go on,
Yeah.
find a member, find what information we have, in terms of what training they've done, what teams they're serving in. It's all there. So to combine it all together, mate, sign me up. I'm there. Spend £350 to do it,
Yeah. Well,
because that's what
I
we're
think,
paying at the minute.
yeah, and I think that I think there's kind of growing thoughts that we've got around all of that, and just trying to
Yeah,
work out, okay, so how do we build all the relevant things into that? Because there are some things like safeguarding. It's like, actually, that is a course that I want you to go systematically
yeah,
through it,
yeah,
and I want to track that, and I need to know. Like, I have a safeguarding requirement to
yeah.
know that you've gone through that
Done that.
process.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas you could set up a values course,
Mhm.
which is actually more about we're gonna talk through some of the different values within our church, which it's kind of set up in a similar way, but your requirement for tracking, it's more about, oh no, we want you to know about
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah,
about this.
yeah,
um, and it's trying to work out how can you build something that is both soft and
yeah.
and welcoming, but also is rigid and kind of gives you that
Yes.
we know that you've completed this exact track.
Yeah.
um and yeah, that's our problem to solve.
Yeah, I think you can solve it, mate, because that would be great. I just think things like new members courses and things like that, like you're talking about values. We probably do a new members course every I don't know, 3 times a year, twice a year, depending on the
Mm.
the demand. It's never enough, but to fit another evening in or a pre-meeting on a Sunday, it's
Mm.
quite a lot. But actually, people get quite frustrated with it because it would be lovely for them to sit and watch something because after four
Mm.
videos about four values of the church, what are our non-negotiables, what are our priorities for us as a church, to sit and listen to that, you'll get a really good idea as to actually whether this is a church you really want to join. And I
Yeah.
think it would save everyone time in that sense, and then have some in-person meetings and process after that. But yeah,
Mm.
we're looking at that thinking if we had the capacity to do that in one place, it would be useful. Yeah.
Mm. It's all about trying to find, the right balance between kind of relational and transactional, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
we want, like, something like new members, absolutely, like, that is
Yeah.
deeply relational. However, there is a transactional element of, we
Yeah.
need to tell you this stuff
Yeah.
so that we can relate as well as possible.
Mm.
And I guess it's trying to find, what is that kind of radical middle ground between those two. Of, if everything's super relational, well, it's going to run infrequently, and it's going to place a lot of relational demands on people. And some people are introverts, and actually
Yeah.
sitting in a room 3 weeks in a row for 2 hours to hear about, they're like, that's a cost for
That's a
them.
big ask, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas actually, if you've got something that's transactional, which is much more of a, well, watch these videos, and once you've watched them, you tick a box and you're now a
Yeah.
member of the church. It's like, no, we don't want to be like that
You don't
either.
want that.
It's a real kind of, interesting balance to find somewhere in that middle
Yeah.
ground, isn't there?
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? And again, a lot of this relates to the leadership of the church, doesn't it? The type
Yeah.
of leaders you've got, the style that you've got. You know, you do need to think through what would work for you. You know, if you're a church of 50 or 100, you can do
Mm,
the relational thing so much easier. If you're a church of 500, again, it's harder and harder to work those things through. Um,
yeah.
and every ministry lead wants to do these kind of review checkups, training, prayer together, they equipping, you know, they all want to do that. And if you're doing that across 10 ministries or something, it
Yeah.
does clog up the calendar, doesn't it? So
Definitely. Definitely.
I think this stuff on training is great. But I guess there's a whole load of issues for you in terms of like hosting videos on site, and I bet there's some complications technically for you to do all of this. Not impossible.
Yeah, I think, probably what we would end up doing is saying, well, um, solving the problem of hosting video, that's been solved.
Yeah.
That's been solved by YouTube, that's been solved by
Yeah.
Vimeo, that's been solved by others out there. And so actually what we would probably do is we would just make it so that it's really easy to link a video from
Yeah.
one of those known,
Awesome.
established mega services.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just link into that and provide all of the other tooling and interface around that, which is effectively how we have built the training section that we'll be rolling out for our users in the coming weeks. We just host all of our videos on Vimeo.
Yeah.
Because it's inexpensive and they are a really solid known entity with great privacy concerns and all those kind of things built in. So it's always about like what's our problem to solve?
Yeah.
Is that our problem to solve now, or is that a problem to solve in the future? It's a lot of fun trying to work out all these different things.
Oh, it's great, mate. And yeah, if we can do more to support it, I'd love to. But I think, yeah, the whole thing around training. I mean, we're talking about things here that are kind of administrative things, aren't they? Getting people into service and while they're in it, you know, how we manage and care for people. But in terms of the whole thing about then discipleship, you know, like year out programs or staff training, again, it's another level, isn't it? And it's another, you know, area to chat more about. But I think you guys are onto something there, mate. I think, you know, we've seen it, we've tried to solve it with Moodle, and it works to some extent, but it doesn't have it's not particularly user friendly. It's not particularly easy for us to upload courses and do stuff. It doesn't have the same kind of navigation, which we've typically enjoyed with other things, you know.
Yeah, and whilst some of the idea of this kind of training is about it is about safeguarding training or newcomer training or whatever that might be, I think I could also see a way that these types of you've got things like the Alpha course, you've got the prayer course, the marriage course, you've got content from Care for the Family, you've got all sorts of resources out there which sometimes you might want your small groups to be running, your home groups to be running. Some churches actually will say, no, we want all home groups to follow the same curriculum. Actually, you record the senior pastor who teaching, whatever it might be, records a 5-minute video to set up the conversations in home group that night, and that could be a way of delivering the content, which becomes available to small. I really do think I think we're in a really interesting time. I'm excited about the ideas. It's just a question of is now the time for us to explore it?
There's so much application, isn't there? There is, really is. One of the other things that I was going to chat to you, Gav, about was when I've gone around churches, you know, we talk about training. The other thing that comes up is when there's congregational churches and there's voting and there's a certain time that people have to send out minutes and agendas and things like that. And we've been talking to people and saying, well, actually, you can use Church Suite for some of this stuff and it will track communication and that's really useful. But it made me think, actually, I wonder if there are churches that are in those situations where they've got a great degree of governance in their annual meetings, that how people are kind of adapting Church Suite to provide some of those services. Have you guys thought any of those kind of areas that Church Suite could develop into?
Oh, developing into, well, great question.
like
caught me off.
voting, even people like voting
Well,
members and things like that.
well, no, yeah. So I know for a fact that a lot of churches will use our forms feature for
Yeah,
voting, because you can set up a form, you can put the various different questions, and tick boxes and what have you that you
yeah,
need on there. But you can make that form anonymous, so that
yeah,
whilst you invite a tag worth of your members or
mm,
something like that to respond to the form, when the person when the staff member within Church Suite is looking at the form responses as they come in, they don't see who those kind
names
of
are.
voters
Yeah,
are,
names
if you
are.
like.
Yeah,
So yeah, absolutely. I know that is well used.
yeah,
And I guess for governance, yeah, things like sending out meetings, you can track all of that through the
yeah,
communication logs, and things like that. And then wider than that, people will set up a specific area on Google Drive or OneDrive,
hmm,
and then link to that from an external link in My Church Suite, so that past
yeah,
minutes or
yeah.
articles of
Documents people can see. Yeah, yeah,
exactly, all of that's
yeah,
there. So yeah, you can definitely piece together those different things,
yeah,
um, yeah, within Church Suite to help support that kind of an
yeah.
organizational structure. Yeah.
Because I think I've met quite a few managers or even pastors who are actually don't have somebody in our role who are
Mm,
like having to manage this going, I don't know how to do this. I'm concerned that if I don't get this email out within 2 weeks, and then, I'm going to be, pulled up and somebody saying they haven't
mm,
had it. How do I make sure that I've, proven that I have shown the email did go and, people did receive it, but maybe it's been lost in junk or whatever. So there's all those things that keep pastors up at night. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay, here we go. 30 odd pounds a month you can pay for this software that
Yeah.
is going to relieve that burden. And I guess we haven't covered that, but it does relieve burden for people who are in
Mm,
ministry who may be having to manage this. And if you're a pastor listening to this, this is a tool for you as much as it is for people who are administrators. And you might need some further support to help to get it up and running and to get it running in the way that would serve your church, but it is going to serve you hugely. So worth thinking about in terms of that governance stuff. Mate, I noticed on the website you have a new funky updated website.
mm.
Very
We do,
pleased with
yeah.
that. The first image almost looks kind of 3D. It almost feels like it's coming off on the page of me. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I
so
love it.
we've
It's great.
yeah, we've been on a bit of a journey over the last probably 18 months of just trying to reevaluate, does our marketing kind of material
Yeah,
tell a true story of who we are, because
yeah,
we are such a product focused company,
yeah,
unashamedly. Like, we love our product, because that
yeah,
is where the rubber hits the ground,
yeah,
and we're really supporting ministry, and so there's always a tendency for us to focus more on the product than on like the website or
yeah,
the social media and all those kind of things. But at the same time, we were beginning to feel a little bit of a sense of, actually, are we, by what our website looks like and things like that, perhaps not doing as good a job of showcasing the product? And actually, we are a dynamic company. We
yeah,
are kind of we're so excited by what we do, and I think that with the updates in color scheme and kind of the
yeah,
dynamism of the website, I think it just does a better job of showing, like, we want to play an active part in
yeah,
supporting the role of church ministry.
yeah.
And for me, when I look at it, I just smile when I look at the website now. I'm like, yes, this is
Does.
modern, this is fresh,
It
it's
does
clean, this is,
better
yeah,
reflect you guys, definitely. Yeah,
yeah.
I when I saw it and went through it, I was like, this is great. This captures who you guys are in a much better way than the old site, and
Mm.
I do love it. And there's the level of details as you go through the pages. And I was watching you on a short video with your green top on, just
Oh yeah.
into one of the details with the Church Street branding on. I loved it, and so it is great. And yeah, if you've not been on the Church Street site for a while, or you've not been at all, then listeners, please go out and check out the website and take a look at the new features on there. It's
Tell you what,
I
Gav,
enjoyed it.
for anyone who is listening to this, if they want us to send them some church sweets, because we might be called Church
Ooh.
Suite, but we've also got some at the minute in the office, some rock, like mint flavored rock.
Yes.
That we found a company that could put the Church Suite logo in it,
My
and it
word.
says Church Suite around the outside. So
You're moving into some branding now, and
well, mate, and anyone who's listening who wants some Church Suites, they just need to email our support team, and we'll be more than happy to post them out some Church Suites. How about that?
all right. Well, maybe the first 10 people that email Gav at Church Suite. Yeah, some rock is available for you, mate. Love that.
Support at churchsuite.com. There you go. And that's Church SUITE, not Church Suite, not SWEET. Yeah, SUIT.com. There we go.
So you got plenty of rock. I love that. You're gonna have you got like branded mugs and things like that. What else have you got that you've branded up yet? Nothing. Is this
no, very, very little. No, it was just a it's a balance, isn't it, in all of these things, like trying to find how can we be playful and fun and remain true to who we are, but also you never want to spend money frivolously. And you don't just want to like, oh, let's just do all the different things. So no, we actually have very, very little branded anything. I think the rock and maybe some little tins of mints, some encouragements we call them.
Okay, that's a big win. Now, in terms of culture, when I first met, one of the things that impacted me in first going to your offices was all the what are they? The party poppers.
Oh yeah.
Somebody joined, and you were talking about some of the fun of like throwing them in. And what are some of the other fun things that are happening behind the scenes that you've used kind of in your staff culture stuff? Fill me in. I haven't prepped you on this, have I? But
yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, so we get together the whole company once a quarter, because we're kind of about 50% of the team are in Nottingham, and then 50% work remotely across the UK and Europe. And so yes, we get together, and we always try and make sure that those days are kind of relational and fun, because actually you produce your best work when you know who you're working with, and you enjoy being with them. So just at our last quarterly day, the icebreaker that we had together was that you had to because it was the summer theme, you had to make a sundae, an ice cream sundae.
Sweet.
Of which but then one of the it was so Lydia who came up with it, just an incredible job of all of our different icebreakers. But it was judged by me, so they were broken down into 6 different teams of 3 or 4 people or whatever it was, and they had to create this ice cream sundae that was judged on appearance, height, taste. Taste something else, and then the final one was je ne sais quoi. And so just that little bit of let's just throw something in there. And we had so much hilarity whilst doing that. Some people are just like properly going for how can we make a sundae as tall as possible. Others were like doing it themed on like the Church Suite logo and a bug being squashed by the Church Suite logo. It just like a software bug, just to clarify. But I think it's some of those things of we want to communicate well, but we also want to try and have fun. And so so just little things that we can as and when, and I think also just trying to make sure that we're looking out for our team as much as possible, with things like cost of living and all those different things. We do our best, and there's always more that we could do, no doubt. Like sometimes we've got it better than others, but just trying to stay close to the ground and thinking, okay, actually we've got everyone coming together this time. When all of the fuel bills were really like we had that massive spike in them, we bought like big thick hoodies and what have you for the team, and like electric hand warmers.
I love that.
Yeah, those kind of things of actually it might cost you to be running all this extra heating and things like that, but maybe we can contribute. And then more recently, coming to Christmas, we gave everyone like a Marks and Spencer voucher or a Tesco voucher, so they could buy some nice food and stuff like that for their family. And people have babies, and we'll buy them some. I don't know if you've come across Cook, the like the frozen foods. It's brilliant. Oh, go and search cook foods. It's like delicious, really lovely frozen meals. But when someone's
Right.
just had a baby, for us as a company to buy them £50 of frozen meals that they can just have in and be like, oh, it's a terrible night, can't be bothered to cook. We'll get the cooker. We're just trying to
Yeah,
work
yeah,
out
yeah,
how can we. Sometimes it's little touches, I
yeah,
think, that
yeah,
that actually make a real difference. But any ways that we can demonstrate that we
yeah,
genuinely care for our team, we
yeah,
try and
great.
build that in as a regular part of our culture, and people really appreciate it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's great. Mate, every time I interact with staff or, when I came to visit, you just there you are creating a culture which, is for me what I want to try and create with our team, and before we chatted about Patrick Lencioni's book, didn't we? Just in terms of that
mm,
hiring the right person, getting the right people on the team is so important, isn't it? To then, doing this secondary thing that we're talking about is how do we care for them? How do we bless them? How do we encourage them in what they're doing? You love that book, didn't you? The Ideal Team Player, Patrick
yeah,
Lencioni. Should we finish a little bit on chatting about that? Because I think listeners will be interested in this as well.
yeah,
He's got 3 points, hasn't he? Take us through those.
yeah. So the ideal team player, he would wrap up as saying it's someone who is humble,
Yeah,
someone who is hungry, and someone who is smart.
yeah,
And so when you're starting to think about, is someone humble? Well, the opposite of humility is pride. And the proud person wants to take all the credit for themselves. They don't really leave room for other people. The humble person actually is prepared to be that team player.
yeah,
Um, and so just trying to work out, okay, where is someone on that scale? Because, we're all on that scale,
yeah,
and sometimes we're leaning more towards one side than the other.
yeah,
But what we're looking for is trying to work out how can we how can we work out where on that scale someone is, because you
mm,
certainly want someone who is leaning towards humility and seeking that as who they want to be.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, humility, that's one thing,
huge. Yeah,
huge part of it.
yeah,
Um, hungry is the second one, and that is really about what is that inner drive within a person.
mm,
The opposite of hungry would be apathetic,
yeah,
and and we all know that it's impossible to give someone who is apathetic a drive for their work.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that is that's one of the most difficult things. I'm sure
yeah,
there are all sorts of people listening to this who'll be like, I've worked with someone who it just felt like they didn't care, and no matter how I tried to paint the picture, no matter
mm,
what motivational language I put around it, I just couldn't get
yeah,
what I needed from them. And so trying to work out, okay, how can we find someone who is hungry? I mean, the downside of hunger is that ambition and too much
mm,
drive can actually workaholism. I see that in myself. That's something I really need to watch out for. Um,
yeah,
those are unhealthy patterns, and that doesn't fit into a deep relationship with Jesus. He does not want us to be exhausted.
yeah,
He
yeah,
wants us to seek rest and find rest in him. So
absolutely.
trying to where is someone on that
Yeah, yeah,
that hungry scale, and then smart is not necessarily completely about intelligence. There are definitely some roles where actually you do need big brains in there. You
mm,
don't want
mm,
someone who does not have a high level of education and understanding running the church suite infrastructure in our
yeah,
service. There is
yeah,
an intelligence
yeah,
smarts level that we need there, but more than that, it's about being people smart.
yeah,
Can this person read the room? Do they understand how their words are being received by others? Are they capable of adapting what they're saying for different audiences and things like that? Um, and so if you can find someone who is humble, who's hungry, who is smart, um, then actually like that person is gold.
yeah,
And so yeah, I
yeah.
wholeheartedly endorse Patrick Lencioni's book, The Ideal Team Player. I find it um, yeah,
It's
it's been
compelling, isn't it?
such
It really
yeah,
is. It really is
absolutely,
compelling.
and challenging as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because when I read it, I then reflect on it like, oh, where am I right now? I want to be humble, I
yeah,
want to be hungry, and I want to be smart. But
yeah,
actually, where right now am I
mm,
lacking? And what can I do to, before God, surrender whatever it is that is kind of pulling me in the wrong direction, and so that I can step into doing what He has made me to do. I don't want to become a limiting factor in that. So
I think it's helpful, isn't it? Because we can, when we come to recruitment stuff, we can go down the kind of the role, the job description, the competencies, but actually in church ministry and certainly in companies as well, the person, if you can find the right person who fits those kind of character qualities of humility, there's a self-drive, there's a hunger to work, there's a passion for what they love and they do, but at the same time there's a smartness about how they work. It just doesn't go wrong, does it, when you've got some of those ingredients? I think about some of the team with us, they love the church, they love the gospel, and they're hungry to work. There's a humility about them because they love the gospel. They understand the gospel. And it's a joy, isn't it? Because you can always upskill people. You can always help train people better, but it's harder on those other elements. And Patrick's got some great stuff in there of just if one of those three are missing, how challenging it can be to move somebody forward. And it's so easy to get sucked into, but actually they're going to do a good job because it feels like they've got skills that meet this job description, but yet they're not a team player. And there's some
and when you're in that place of, I've got such a need right now because I've got such a hole in my team. I just need someone. But actually, if you get the wrong person, you can set yourself back, and it's really, really difficult when you're in that place. To hold on to the principles of, actually, no, I can see that this person is lacking in people smart, and actually I could appoint them and it would solve some of my problems, but actually I'm going to end up cleaning up a mess both for them and for others later. I mean, hiring is hard. It's just hard.
It is tough, isn't it? It really is tough, because what you get presented with is not always the case, is it? That's behind the scenes, and that's the hard thing. And it's even more brutal in the church when somebody's a church member, and when these things go wrong, they are tough. And I'm sure everyone who's listening to the podcast has had an experience where they've had to bring someone to a point where they're asking them to finish a role, and those are challenging things to work through. So getting stuff right at the start of, actually, let's be people focused and think about these people things rather than just the task, would be a really useful. But take a look at the book and have a look at it. But it's I think that's another podcast, isn't it? Recruitment is another whole area to chat about. But mate, this is great. It's great to spend time with you, Bud. You've got such wisdom, and we really appreciate this partnership and this sponsorship together. And if you're listening today and you've not come across ChurchSuite and this is the first time you've heard about it, then please go and check out their website, get in contact with them, look for a free trial. There's so much stuff that we would recommend here. Churches all over the country are using this, and now into Australia as well. I saw the little drop down tab on the website, and I'm looking forward to seeing countries added, Gav, as God continues to bless what you're doing at ChurchSuite. I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the crazy thing is that our software is used by I think there's more than 40 countries that ChurchSuite gets used. It is mind-blowing. It is amazing.
It's awesome. Like God's grace at work, and it is incredible that the idea, when you were working alongside a pastor in your church, developing this to where it is now, is just remarkable grace, isn't it? And
absolutely.
And God's used you and your gifting to bless the whole church, a wider church, and your kingdom mindset is provoking, and and how we can serve other churches is wonderful. Well, Gavin, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks for all your support, mate. It's great to chat, and we'll see you next time on the podcast. Bless you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.